Hey guys, my name is Adrian. Welcome back to All Booked Up. Today we are doing a book review, and this is a book review of a self-published magical realism story by an author called Raymond St. Elmo, and it is called The Blood Tartan. So this was an interesting read for me. It's something I picked up on Kindle. I don't know if I picked it up free or cheap a while ago. But it looked interesting to me. It was a nice quick read. It was only about 300 pages and it is described as literary fiction by the author. He also says he's got a big love of magical realism, which is probably where I'd put this in genre-wise, although I've not really read much magical realism, so who knows. First of all, I want to apologise if you've watched my wrap-up video from a couple of days ago. I did go on a bit of a ramble about this book, so hopefully I won't repeat myself too much. But I want to have this out there as a review because I thought this was a really solid self-published book that I really enjoyed. So, The Blood Tartan, it is book one of the Quest of the Five Clans series. There is 5 books in that series, as you might tell. It follows our protagonist, Rain Grey, who is a spadassin, so he's a swordsman, a duelist. He is well known in his city. He is wrapped up in a lot of political intrigue, although he's definitely not the biggest mover and shaker. He has friends and acquaintances on 2 sides of political spectrum who are very much bigger dogs than he is in that world. It does kick off with him on a job, trying to do good on this job, and he encounters a person who shocks him with his abilities, and immediately from there we are slowly unleashed into the seedy underground of the city as things start to fall apart for Rain Grey, and as we start to meet different characters who are definitely not sane, definitely not normal, reasonable people, but there is also definitely something strange going on that Rain has to explore and try to understand, and actually get to grips with exactly what's going on as he meets more and more characters who are very odd. That's a very quick synopsis for the start of this book. Maybe don't read the Goodreads synopsis because it tells you a lot about a lot of the world building that we get parceled out really slowly throughout this book. Even stuff that we learn super late on, Goodreads tells you about, so maybe hold off on that if you are interested in this book. This is a first-person perspective following Rain Grey. I think his voice as a character is very interesting. I'd say the authorial voice from Raymond St. Elmo is pretty much unique. I've not encountered an authorial voice quite like this before. For many people, his prose might be bordering on purple. There's definitely sort of a mauve tint to it, but it's not overly flowery. It is actually quite precise with its wording. We don't get a bunch of unnecessary words. It is actually quite condensed, and I find that quite interesting. It is quite smart. There's a lot of references snuck in there, things that you might have to look up, especially if you're not a native English speaker. There's going to be a little bit of work for you to do here. But I really enjoyed it. I thought it was clever. The prose was one of the things that kept me reading at a decent clip, along with the fact that I really enjoy and appreciate our main protagonist. I think he is interesting. I think there's a lot of depths behind him and his backstory, which we explore a little bit of, but not completely. And I can absolutely see this being a series that I really enjoy. It is a self-published book. It is a book that actually, if I have a look on Goodreads, it's a little bit insane how underrated, not underrated, underhyped this is. So it is at 4.23 stars, which is a very good rating. However, it only has 117 ratings. It only has 27 reviews. So this is really unknown, and this is the first book in a 5-book series. So the other 4 are going to have even less than this. Okay, because no one's jumping in at book 2 or 3 here, yeah? So I would say this is certainly underhyped. It's not something people have heard of, but I think it is worth a read. It is quick, it is fast paced, there is a lot of stuff going on. It doesn't have the normal, what I would class as normal literary fiction issues of being slow paced and plodding and introspective. There is a lot that happens. This book does have a plot and it keeps moving and it's interesting, but it still has the writing style of a more literary feeling book. As I said before, this is definitely, for me, I think, in the realms of magical realism, and I find that very interesting, not quite knowing what is actually fantastical elements, what is going on in our character's head, especially because we're in the first person perspective. There are some blurred lines there between what he is actually seeing and what he thinks he's seeing, which I think is very interesting as well. And I think the world that is being built, although based on a very much Industrial Revolution era, I think the clans and the setup of that idea is very interesting. There's definitely inspiration taken from lots of different mythologies and different fantastical elements, and I think that's done very well. All in all, for me, this was a solid 4-star read. I really enjoyed it. I can absolutely see myself continuing with this series. I think, in fact, I'm planning to read the Moon Tartan, which is book 2 in this, at some point either this month or at the beginning of July. The prose and the sort of magical realism won't be for everyone. It's not going to be for all your standard fantasy readers. But if you enjoy clever wordplay, if you enjoy subtle references, if you enjoy a interesting authorial voice and a protagonist who is very interesting and somewhat relatable, I would absolutely recommend reading this book. It's a pretty cheap book to buy on ebook, so have a look at it. And I think that a lot more people should be talking about this. I think Raymond St has written a very interesting book here, clearly has a very good literary prose style, and definitely an enjoyable read. So yeah, get on it, have a look at it, see if it's something you might enjoy, because I think there are not enough people talking about this self-published fantasy, magical realism series. So absolutely a recommendation from me. Thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to click like if you enjoyed this video, subscribe if you want to see more of my content, and I will see you guys soon.